Okay. So we're going to, just to recap, we're going to look at the Git flow, which is the process that we start off from once we get our assignment. We're going to go all the way through that. We're going to create our pull request. We're going to make a complete circle. Then we'll address questions. So the first thing that we want to do, of course, is if we look at our instructions, always the first place to start, of course, is we're going to look right here. And this, I guess, was Tuesday's assignment. So the first thing that we want to do is create a forked copy of this project. And that is easy enough. We're going to click fork. Let's see if I can guess one that I don't have this in. Let's try that one. Yeah, right. First try. So we forked it. Apparently it's going slow. And if we look at our instructions, now we want to clone your own version of the repo. And this is really important that you make sure that you're cloning your own. And the way that you can tell that is right here. So this will tell you that it's forked, and you get the little fork symbol right here on the top. But if you see forked from and then your username, then you're good to go. So step one, after you fork, double check that you have this. Occasionally it'll happen that you fork it, and instead of clicking here, you click here, and you end up at the Lambda School. And notice Lambda School or anybody's repo will look like this. And so you do not want to fork from here. All right, so first you make sure that it's your own. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to code. Yours will probably look like this. It'll say HTTPS. I use SSH, so this is the one I use, but ultimately the process is identical. And I'm going to copy that, and now I'm going to go to the terminal. And remember to clone. It's simple. Git clone, and we're going to paste that in there. Hopefully I do not have one in there. I do not. Excellent. So we have forked. We confirm that. The next thing we did is clone. Now, it's really important if, for instance, I was in a situation like this, when I come to my terminal and I do not see, in one way or another, the file structure that's related to where I keep my projects. So in this case, I keep it in Lambda School. You can always double check. You can say pwd. That will tell you where you're at. And I want to be in Lambda School. And so I can say ls if I want to see all of the files and the folders that are in that particular directory. And notice mine's in documents at Lambda School. So I can cd into documents. And if I want to check again, I can look over here and see everything that I have. Of course, I can cd into Lambda School. Oops. All right, if I do an ls, there's a bunch of Lambda School projects. So it's really important that you clone your repo where you want to work. You don't have to call it Lambda School. You can call it work projects, Bob, whatever you want. It's just important that you double check where you're at. And if your terminal, so I use Linux, so it'll look a little bit different. Those of you on Windows, you'll be using the Git Bash terminal. If you're on Mac, you'll be using, I think it's Z Shell now. But basically, their only difference is how they look, the colors and that kind of thing. So now, this was my project, web modules, right? So if when I do my ls, I do have web module right here. And so now I want to cd into that. Now, there are shortcuts available to you, and it's important that you get used to using the tab autocomplete system, because it'll save you time in actually Let's see, Brian, there's a waiting list and I do not have access to it.
Okay, looks like it's popped over. It was scrolled down.
Gotcha. And so the way that tab autocomplete works is you have to type enough unique characters for it to recognize. So if we look at this, this is the file that I want, right? Web-module. So I have lots of web. So if I type in WEB and hit tab, nothing happens. I know you can't see me hitting tab, but now I just hit it twice. And this gives me a list of everything that starts with web. And what I want is -M. Now, when I type -M and hit tab, notice it auto-completed everything for me. This is a really important skill, both in Git and in terminal, because it will reduce errors because you're not typing the wrong file and then you're trying to figure out what's going on. It'll also work really well in Git when you have to type the same things over and over again, things like main or master, origin, and it just helps you be more efficient with it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and log into that. And if I do an ls again, of course, everyone should recognize this. So I'm going to go ahead and open my Visual Studio Code. And you can do that with code dot. If you do not have that set up, just let's see, Brian, would you mind starting a thread in Web 25 help and just for questions? And if you do not have the capability of typing code space period and it opening Visual Studio Code, just drop your name in there and we'll help you get that set up. It's quite simple to do and very handy. And what makes it really nice is you always open in the right folder. You don't have to worry about trying to figure out where it's at. So now we're here. Everybody should be familiar with this. I'm just going to close this. And I'm going to open the terminal that's inside Visual Studio Code. And you can do that by going to terminal, new terminal, or right here, it'll tell you the shortcut. For me, it is Control-Shift-Tilde. Or tick. I think it's tick. Yeah, it's tick. Sorry, I just do it out of habit and I don't pay much attention. And notice that this is the same structure that we have over here. All right, so it's in exactly the same place. In fact, I will not be using that anymore tonight. So, as a question to the group, when we're at this point, what is the next thing that we should do? Anyone?
I was answering a question in chat, so I'm not sure where you're at because I wasn't paying attention.
Was it making the branch?
Right. So if we follow our instructions down, create a new branch, and we do that with git checkout -b. All right. So I'm going to say git checkout -b. So the -b stands for branch. And that's the flag. We call it a flag, right? And then the flag B, it will create a new branch. If we're moving from branch to branch, we do not use the new branch because there's one already there. Now, let me show you this real quick. This is a really important tool. If you say git branch, this will tell you the branch that you're on. I'm going to stretch this up a little bit, maybe enlarge it just a little bit. Make, ooh, too big. On a 32-inch monitor, that was ginormous. So if I type the git branch, it just tells you which branch you're on. Really handy tool. Throw that over there on your whiteboard or your Post-it note or your notepad that you keep some shortcuts in. First one that you may not be familiar with, git branch. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a new, and I'm going to say git checkout -b because it's one that I want. And the way that Lambda School has us do it for now is first, last name. All right. So now it tells us that I switched to a new branch and now I can look and see both. If you don't know, when you're in terminal, if you hit the up arrow, it will take you back through all of the commands that you've used. So you can save yourself some typing, especially in this situation. So now notice I have two different branches. So let's go make a change. All right, we're going to pretend that we're doing our work. And in this case, I'm going to use this as the template. And I'm going to come in here and say, hey, I did that. I did that. I did that. And implement the project, right, of our branch, our newly created branch. And we're going to commit changes regularly. So I haven't not done that yet. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Another important thing, when working in Visual Studio Code, notice this white dot right here. Anyone guess what that white dot means?
You still have to save it.
I have to save it. Now I've saved it. It's gone. So at this point, I've done a lot of hard work. I definitely don't want to have to repeat that mess. And what do I want to do? Well, the first thing that I want to do is I want to say get status. And get status will tell me a lot of useful information. The most important thing being two parts. One, changes not staged for a commit. And it tells me, hey, use the git add something here, right? And we have this nice red text. Pay attention to that. So red means it's uncommitted and we want to add it, all right? There's a couple of different ways we can add a file. And this is important. So we can say git add, and we can follow this instruction right here, the file name. So notice I'm going to type capital R-E and hit tab. Look at that. Bet you wish you could type that fast, right? So I have added that file. I also have the option of doing a dot or a period, and this stands for all, right? And in this instance, I'll do the all. So two options for adding: get add file name, and you can string together multiple file names by just having a space. Or if you want to do everything at one shot, you can do the all command, which is get add dot. All right. Now, if I do my get status again, notice this time it says changes to be committed, and it's turned green. So red means we need to add it. Green means we need to commit it. And to do a commit, it's nice and simple. Get commit -m. Anyone have a clue what the -m or the flag M stands for?
Message.
Beautiful. All right, so I'm going to put a message in here, and I'm going to say update README. Now, I want you to look here. Notice I have conflicting quotes. And this happens a lot, especially if you like to use double quotes. It's very easy to do this. And notice when I hit enter, we get this right here, right? When this happens, not if, but when this happens, or it could be because you put another symbol back here or letter, something after the quote, whatever it is. When you see this, you can simply hit Control C, hit your up arrow one time, and fix your commit. Notice now I fixed it, and it will tell me that the branch, what the commit was, update the README. One file was changed. I made 5 insertions and 7 deletions. Now, what will happen when I do a get status? Anyone?
You'll see if any changes were made.
Right. And in this case, it'll say nothing to commit. The working tree is clean, right? We've done that. And we're like, yeah, we're off and running. We're doing good. Now, if we come back over here, we implement the project. That's where we're at. And then the next thing is to push commits using git push-u origin and our branch name. So let's go ahead and do a push. So I'm going to say git push -u or flag u. Does anyone know what the flag u stands for? All right. Stands for upstream. And what this is doing is setting the upstream. And you can think about the upstream as the connection between the repo on your computer to the repo at GitHub. And once you set the -u, that makes it a default. You no longer have to type everything that follows it. So you only really need to do -u once to a branch until you change it. So I'm going to say -u origin, and then I'm going to do my branch. And notice I just type ZA, hit tab, there it is. Makes it really easy to make sure you don't screw up. Hopefully you don't screw up your own name. I've done it so many times that it's kind of scary. All right. So I hit enter and learn pattern recognition. This will save you so much time. Learn to recognize a successful push. And it will always follow this basic structure. Enumerating something, this remote tells you, in this case, it was 100%, created a pull request visiting this location, and ultimately, this is what you want to pay attention to. But just learn to recognize it. Always look at it. And we're going to break it here in a minute so that you can see what a break looks like. But in this case, look at that, and that means it was successful. So once you've done this, we can go over here to GitHub, and automatically it will generate this for you. This branch, and gives us this beautiful green button to compare and pull request. So we go ahead and we hit that. And the next critical step is right here. So notice here's my message. I could write some more information here if I wanted to. And our instinct is to always go right here and create it. So if I create this message, what problem is going to happen? Anyone know?
You're not
I
pulling
know.
a request from the right repository.
Right. So I'm not creating the pull request to my repository. I'm in fact, it's going to Lambda School. This will default to the place where it was forked from. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is, if you see, like I said, learn pattern recognition, it'll make life a lot easier. If you see all of this, you don't even have to read it. You know right off the bat that is incorrect. But what you want to do is come over here to base repository and notice Lambda School. And notice what happened. Look where I'm at. Right. Now, if I come back over here, I'm at mine. But when I create this and I say to come here to open this, it goes to Lambda School. And that's because of this. So what I want to do is just go to the drop down, and I want to find my repo. But really look at this for a minute, right? We got problems. Where's it at? I got all kinds of them in here. So does anyone see where the problem lies?
You're not in your branch is not there?
So let's go back to our code. And how can we find out where we're at? Well, we can do a couple of things, right? We can say we got this right here, but GitHub, right? So there is this tool, Git Remote -V. It says I'm at the right spot. But when I create and pull, it switches. Notice. And if I keep flowing around, oh, it says that's no good. So what do you do? Break down and cry is a plausible answer, but
Is
not
that
the
choice
one.
C?
It can be. It can be, but let's try a couple of other things before we get there, right? So notice when I come here, I have this branch. And when I do this pull request, it always goes back to Lambda School, and I'm stuck here. Now, if I look for and I type my proper repository, it is in fact there. Sometimes, depending how many repositories and how many people you work with, this could be a problem, right? It's not always, but don't fret, don't freak out. Just drop this down and type in what you're looking for. Most of the time, you will be the second one on the list, right? But these are all of my former students. As you can see, lots of people have shared and made me collaborators, and this problem arises. But as you go further and further, this is something you have to be aware of. So I'm just going to type and do a search. This is in fact where I want to go. And so now it's going to refactor the page. Just give it a second. It'll automatically refactor. Now see where I'm at. Now I'm back at mine, and it says my branch to my main. Now we're at a good spot. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Now we're at a good spot. My name of the branch to my main, and I'm back here in my folder. Now I can go ahead and create pull request. And we now have a pull request that's been completed. Now it's important to note, and we get this question all the time, Brian will tell you, well, what happens if I did some work, I grab this URL, and this is the URL that you'll submit. And you can always double check it. It has pull inside the name, right? So you'd grab this and copy it and head to Canvas and you drop it in. And the question that we always get is, what happens when I look at it and I'm like, oh, dang, you know what? What if I make some more changes? And I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if you can see it or not, but we fixed it. So the pull request itself is auto updating, and I'm going to show you that right now. So let's come over here, and for index, all right, I'm going to write some code, and I'm going to say, well, this is a H1. That is cool. All right. I come over here, I'm moving quick, I'm feeling good, and I do a git status. Oh, wait a minute. I just made a change. Why is it not showing up?
You haven't added it, or you haven't staged it to be.
Not even that far yet, because waiting to stage it, it would show up red. You're getting close, though. You're almost there.
You got to save it.
Ah, check the white dot. Right, so I save it. So I pop up there and I save it, and I come back over here. I do a git status again, and now we're red and we're ready for staging. How do we stage? We say git add. This time I'm going to go ahead and type it out so that you can see. And now I can do, if I want to again, do not be afraid to use git status all the time. One, it solidifies what you're doing because you'll see it all the time. And there will be times when you will use it constantly. So getting used to it now is a good thing. All right, we are now green. Green means we can commit it. So I'm going to go ahead and commit. And because of the massive amount of work, a few words of update. Oops. I need to put that in quotes. I want to say update index, but I also want to add more information because I really need to express to the world how great I just did. I can do a double flag again, and I can add more information. I worked super, nope, that would be super duper, really duper hard on this. All right. So now I've added extra information. Okay. So this is the title. So when we do a dash M or a flag M, that's the title. If we do it again, this becomes the body. So just think of an email, title, and the body. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It says it gives me positive confirmation right through this. I do a get status again because I'm moving along. It's feeling good. We're jamming. Now it tells me, hey, use git push to publish your local commits. So I type git push and voila, it works. And the reason it works is because we set origin and my name with the -u flag. All right. So GitHub is really good about telling us what's going on, right? And so if we go back here to notice, it's right there. I don't have to do anything. It's right there. So we've gone through the entire cycle. We've updated. We're moving along. If I do my git branch again, and I say, hey, oh, there's main, right? Let's just say for whatever reason, I went haywire. I was doing some serious code slinging. I mean, I'm doing great. And I save that, right? I want to save it. And I come over here and I do a status. And I'm like, man, I'm slinging some code. Great. I'm going to add that. I'm going to commit it. Awesome. Which is a terrible commit message, by the way. It should tell what you did. But I'm feeling good. And I'm like, yeah. And then I look at it and I'm like, oh, crap. Well, how do I get it to go back? What's happening, right? This next part, we're not going to spend much time on. I want you to have an understanding. You don't really need to do this at this point, but in the near future, you're going to screw it up. Maybe not with that Swedish Korean that I used there, but you're going to mess it up, right? One method that you can do is you can do a git log. This is an important tool. Put it on your little list of things, git log. This tells you all of your commit histories, right? There's my super duper, really duper hard on this. All of this stuff, the entire history. Now this will go on for quite a ways because there's lots of commits. Notice the double dots and your cursor's there. You can hit Q and it'll zap you out of it right away. Q stands for quit. So when I look at my branch, notice I've really messed up Zach. I mean, that thing is messed up. So what options do I have? If I type git checkout, no B, because I don't want to create a new one. I want to go back to the original factory. Let me close this before we do that. I'll close this so that you can be amazed. I can say git checkout main. And when I come back over to here, notice it's all brand new. So the important note here is when you really mess something up, don't delete everything and just go back and reclone. Commit it, clean it up, and then go back to your master, right? Or your main. And you have the ability to move around from commit to commit. So now let's say here, I've really messed up the Zach Smith branch. That thing is awful. I've decided I need to get some work done though. So I'm going to create a new branch, and this time it's going to be Zach 2. So I'm on Zach 2, and of course, if I look at my branch, there it is. And so now I'm going to go ahead and do some work here, and I'm just going to make that a P tag. Not that I would in real life, but there we go. and I come over here and I say git status. It's red. What does red mean?
Need to save it.
We need to add it. It's not stage. Red means add. Okay, so I add it. What color am I going to see now?
Green.
Green. There it is. Now I can do my commit message, and I'm going to say fixed. And now, what was the last push command that I used? Git push, right? That's what it told me. Git push. So what? Now we're broken. That's it. Time to cry. Call it a night. I'm going home. Well, I'm going out since I'm staying home, right? No, this just tells you the current branch has no upstream. To push to the current branch, set the remote as upstream, and it gives you this set upstream. We no longer have this need. You can use which flag? -U. All right. So now I can go ahead and set that again. I can say, whoops, push -U origin Zach 2. And now I am back to good. The last issue that we're going to have when in this case, it's not a problem, but it's something you need to be aware of so you don't freak out. Notice it says, hey, wait a minute. You got a pull request. So because I went to a new branch, instead of updating the old one, I'm right back here again. So the first thing I need to do, I am not in my repo. This is not correct. I'm going to come here. I'm going to find my repo. I'll give it a second to refactor. And then I'm going to create the pull request. Now, in this case, we have 2 pull requests. And for whatever reason, you've already submitted everything and you're done. And you're like, oh, dang, now this has changed to a number 2. Don't stress that because you can always get to it right here when you're, man alive. Apparently, there's some conversation going over there. I blame Brian. And you can get it here from your pull requests. So you can go right back to it. So even if you mistakenly put in 1 and you had to go to a 2, do not stress it. If you haven't turned it in, turn in for the one that is current, right? But if you've turned in this one and now you're on this one, don't stress it because you're going to be the one that shows this to your mentor, that has the conversation. And finally, at some point, you may have to merge your own. And so we're going to look at that really quick, and then we're going to be taking some questions. So I'm going to just go to fix because that's the proper one. And when I click on that, it tells me, hey, no conflicts with the base, and it's all green. If you have that, you can merge it without a problem. If it comes back that there's merge conflicts and it's black, grab one of the TAs, post in the help desk, and we'll help you resolve those. But in this case, it's all green. I can go ahead and say confirm. And this would be the last thing that you do after you've spoken with your mentor and you've resolved all the issues. It's all good and you're all done. We're there. Okay. So I know that's a lot to go through. More than anything, the key is that you think about what it is that you're doing. And in reality, how many different commands did we use tonight? We used git checkout. Well, we used git clone. We can say 1, git checkout -b, name 2, git status, git log, git remote -v. That's 5. We did the git add 2 different ways, 7, a commit 2 different ways, 9, and a push 2 different ways, 11. And that is about 92% and a half. It was funny. I was on hold the other day and they said, your approximate wait time is 21 3/4 seconds. It's like, cool. 3/4 second. That's getting pretty good, right? So we're going to say 92 53 hundredths of the time that is your standard commands that you'll use all the time. If you're unsure of where you're at, get status. If you want to know which branch you're on, get branch. Okay. Double check that you fork from your repo when you fork it. Double check that when you do your pull request that you're in your repo, not Lambda School, and that will solve more problems than you can imagine. If you get an unauthorized error, so when you try to push and it tells you you're unauthorized, don't freak out. It means that you forked Lambda School, or you may have forked, but you cloned Lambda School and you do not have authorization to push a pull request to Lambda School. That's why it'll tell you that you are unauthorized. So, any questions? And what I will do is I will make some notes here in a bit and drop those in either tonight or in the morning that just give all of those that we went through. But any questions?
I have one.
Okay, I don't know who's talking. Oh, Arthur, go ahead.
So I had a question. I was trying to help a classmate last night make their branch, and this error popped up a couple times. So they would get space checkout -B, one quotation on their name dash last name, but they wouldn't have the last quote, and an extra cataract would pop up, and I didn't know what to do from then on.
So you just hit Control C. One important thing. So the only time you need quotes around anything is if there's a space. So when you're creating a branch, you do not need to put quotes around it, because as you noticed, I never put quotes around my branches because there's no space. But if there's a space in there, which when we use a message, we're going to have spaces, obviously. So we'll put either single or double, but the single and double have to match, and there cannot be any weird things that follow. So if you get that error, hit Control C, up arrow at one time, back it up, do whatever you have to do, and then fix in this case, the quote, and then hit enter again.
Okay. So that was stumping me last night.
It's an odd error by all means. Hey, I just saw Chris is here. Hey, Chris.
So, Zach, I know on the Mac, a lot of the times they don't have the path set up
Yes.
in their thing. You want to show them right quick what PWD means,
Sure.
and like changing directories up and down?
Sure, we can do that. Let me hop over here to this, and I'll share screen. Nope, I want to share this one. All right. Actually, I'm going to just go to terminal, the regular terminal here. Okay. So in this case, this may not show up on yours. And so you can do PWD. And PWD stands for present working directory. And it just tells you where you're at. But notice it tells you all the way back, depending on if you're on Mac or Windows, it goes your entire structure of your directory structure. So this is home on Linux is basically the root path. Okay. So let's say that I want to move up a file. I want to change directory and then do a double dot. Before I do double dot, let's do a single dot. What do you think will happen when I do a change directory with a single dot?
Would you go down the file path?
All right, let's try it. You ready? Ready? Nothing happened. And we look at our two paths, but if we're unsure, we can say present working directory. Nothing happens. So the single dot, when you're moving or traversing the directory structure, is where you're at. So it just means whatever folder I'm in, that's where I'm staying. But if it happens, you know why. And so to move up, we need double dots. So notice if I do PWD again, now I have home, my Documents Lambda School, where I was at Documents Lambda School web modules. Now, always use your LS if you're not sure where you're at. And again, if I wanted to go up to documents, I could say cd space ... again. That'll take me up one more. And I could do present working directory and look at that. And if you're unsure of where you're at or unsure of where you're going, so let's say that I'm here, right? So I do an ls and I was like, oh, dang. And now yours is going to look a whole lot different because of the operating system, right? The easiest way is to do a cd tilde. And if we do an ls, that will take you to the directory structure that you're used to. But this happens sometimes because you'll hit the wrong button. You'll get crazy fingers and you're there. But if you're unsure, use a tilde, and that will normally give you a structure that you're used to. And again, I keep all of my stuff in documents. Now you can also chain them together. So I could say cd documents and then lamb, and I hit the tab once. There's other things, but I know it's Lambda school. And so now it will do double. And I can also move up the same way. I could do double dot / double dot, and that will take me all the way back up to there. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. Go back to where I can see everybody, or almost everybody, or some of you. Any other questions?
Any questions on forking, cloning, where to go after your clone, that kind of stuff?
And I just have to say, you're really cool if you find the Git shirt that says Get Forked. I've been looking for that t-shirt. If you find one, let me know.
Why don't you make it?
Actually, somebody already has a t-shirt patent on it. Otherwise, I would.
You should do one that's oh, what do you call it? I don't know. Well, it's fine. I think I just lost it. But yeah, that's a good one. But I think I'll remember it here in a little bit, though.
All right, we'll
it'll be just as good.
Well, yeah, I do want to get forked one really bad. You know, you've been doing Git long enough when you start sending GIT to family in text, and nobody really notices because who can send proper spelling in Git in text anyway? But that's when you know you are having the proper nightmares. Any other questions? Alex?
Hey guys, I'm just joining in here. If somebody else has questions, that'd be good. If not, I would like to know how to go through the process of cloning, and then the pushing and the merging.
Then here shortly, Brian will drop this video in there and we go through every single step.
Perfect.
Yeah, so just watch it through. The only thing I would say is it's Tuesday's assignment, so don't try to follow it. Otherwise, you'll get a forking error because you forked up. And, but otherwise, God, you guys got to love the puns you can have with it.
He's here all week.
That's right.
Brian, where are you going to drop it? Where are you going to drop the
it'll be in the help channel. It'll take a few minutes to process because I have a 386
you see his
for
computer
processor.
setting up there.
It's running full power.
Yep. That's perfect.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
All 1.44 megahertz.
Yeah.
He's got the Tandy overclocked. He's going to get it done as quick as he can.
Yep.
No,
Yeah, that's an Apple. Is that a 2? Apple 2?
That's a 2C.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went fancy.
Yeah.
My first computer was a Tandy. My grandmother got it for me. And I
Ah,
remember being so upset because I couldn't play Doom on it because it was RGB and not VGA. I was so mad.
I have 3 of them sitting over there.
my first one was Commodore 64. You plugged it to television, and if you had a color television, you had 16 color range. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a
Back in
Commodore
1983.
64.
Yeah, back in 1983.
Yeah,
Good
it
days.
was I was probably 84, 85 when I had mine.
Yeah.
But we used Apple IIe's and Apple IIc's in school in the 7th grade. And then
like where we were at.
the Commodore was like my first real computer.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Any other questions? All right, Brian, you can stop.